Have you ever witnessed an on-court confrontation that felt so intense you swore it had to be scripted? Well, this recent meltdown between Isaiah Stewart, D, Chinzo, and an unlikely set of coaches just might top them all, and it goes far beyond. One heated moment, hidden tensions, rumored locker room unrest, and a bizarre twist involving two rival coaches have basketball fans buzzing like never before. But was this entire brawl purely spontaneous? Or was it the inevitable outcome of building pressures that finally exploded? By the end of this story, you'll see just how deep these rivalries run. The air felt electric well before the first whistle. Whispers floated around that Isaiah Stewart and D, Chinzo had been trading verbal shots throughout the week, yet nobody anticipated a fiasco. Fans noticed Stewart stalking the court with a hardened glare, occasionally zeroing in on D, Chinzo. Some watchers even speculated the tension might stem from prior scuffles in recent matchups, tiny moments no one fully pieced together until now. And it wasn't just the players. There were also rumors swirling about simmering disagreements in the back offices. Whether it was a spat over training regimens or a clash of personalities, signs pointed to the possibility that this showdown wouldn't remain purely between the men in uniforms. Still, the scale of what occurred took everyone by surprise. Onlookers picking up these signals assumed it was the usual pre-game hype. But in reality, the stage was set for something far more monumental. Refs reported glimpses of trash talk, so sharp they considered stepping in early. Yet they didn't want to disrupt the game's natural energy. Players on both sides acknowledged a sense of looming conflict, but no one guessed how quickly it would spin out of control. Suddenly, in the midst of an already physical back and forth, things snapped. Stewart delivered a forceful throwdown that electrified the crowd, but what truly sparked the chaos was D, Chinzo's harsh retaliation, an aggressive bump, followed by a pointed remark that only lip readers might decipher. Instead of letting it go or waiting for an official review, Stewart stomped right up to D, Chinzo. An uncomfortable hush swept through the arena before erupting into collective gasps. Camera angles showed Stewart seemingly pointing right in D, Chinzo's face, while other players tried to wedge themselves in and calm things down. In the blink of an eye, a referee's whistle was drowned out by furious hollering on both sides. Fans who came for a routine game suddenly go front row seats to a raw, unfiltered glimpse of just how personal professional sports can become. The turning point was so abrupt that even veteran commentators were momentarily speechless. One broadcast crew member described it as the kind of intensity that belongs in a championship series, not a mid-season game. People watching from home flooded social media with shock and condemnation, but that was only the first wave of reactions. Within seconds, a fresh wave of unrest was about to hit, and it involved people no one expected. In a bizarre twist that left spectators utterly stunned, two coaches decided to make their voices heard, loudly and physically. J.B. Bickerstaff, known for his passionate courtside manner, was seen racing onto the floor with a thunderous expression. On the opposing bench, Pablo Pion mirrored Bickerstaff's frustration and stepped forward too, determined not to let his players be overwhelmed. At first, it seemed they intended to separate the clashing athletes. Yet, eyewitness reports suggest a few heated words were exchanged between the two men. Words potent enough to boil over into a brief but shocking scuffle. Arms flailed, fingers were pointed, and the tension soared. The crowd, already reeling from the players' showdown, now found themselves watching grown men in suits turning up the volume on the confrontation. What had inflamed these coaches to this degree? Some speculate it was a series of prior disagreements about game tactics, rosters, and behind-the-scenes negotiations. Others claim that at least one coach had recently been the subject of swirling rumors. Something about friction with management. That bled into interactions on the court. Whatever the cause, no one could recall the last time two seasoned coaches squared off with such fury. Suddenly, cameras panned to security and assistant staff sprinting in to break things up. Players trying to cool down the original altercation got reignited by the new turn of events. As both benches nearly emptied onto the hardwood, fans in the stands rose, half in excitement, half in sheer disbelief. The meltdown reached a fever pitch, and at that moment, it felt like almost anything could happen next. Referees, faced with the impossible task of containing multiple flashpoints, wasted no time in making their decisions. Technical fouls were handed out left and right. In a matter of minutes, they declared multiple ejections. Stewart, D. Chinzo, Ron Holland, Sasa, and yes, even the coaches JB Bickerstaff and Pablo Peon were shown the exit. One official, voice quivering with both anger and adrenaline, announced the rulings to a chorus of boos, cheers, and general chaos echoing throughout the arena. Fans seemed torn between admiration for the fiery passion on display and discomfort at how quickly it all spiraled out of control. Social media erupted with knee-jerk reactions. Some praised the refs for making a strong statement, while others claimed ejections were too severe and robbed the game of its core competitors. In the aftermath, each bench appeared shaken and somewhat disorganized. With major players removed, both teams had to scramble their rotations on the spot, leading to confusion over who would even remain on the court. Several staff members and players wore visible scratches, while cameras repeatedly panned to the scuffed up neck of D. Chinzo, evidence of just how physical this brawl had become. Yet even after the dust momentarily settled, the tension continued simmering below the surface. This explosive clash didn't come out of nowhere. Isaiah Stewart already had a reputation for intense face-offs on the court, one of the most infamous being his confrontation with a certain star player last season, which left him bloodied and furious. Critics labeled him as hot-headed, though teammates often defend him as just deeply passionate and unwilling to back down when provoked. Meanwhile, D. Chinzo hasn't always been squeaky clean either. Whispers suggest he has butted heads with coaches over playstyles, occasionally fueling disputes behind closed doors. Some speculate that frustration over contract negotiations or dissatisfaction with his role may have fueled his aggression towards Stewart on the night in question. At the same time, both JB Bickerstaff and Pablo Peon entered the league with reputations as fiery motivators. Rumblings about friction between these two date back to obscure comments made in press conferences, where they each subtly criticized the other's defensive setups. Several sports insiders note that Peon in particular has faced rumored tensions with front office figures, generating a cloud of speculation about his job security. This confrontation, some argue, could be the final straw for certain people in management circles. One immediate question on everyone's minds: how will this meltdown affect the rest of the season for both squads? Fans are already debating the severity of looming suspensions, with the league historically issuing heavy penalties for altercations that spill off the court and involve coaches. Some insiders claim that fines and short-term suspensions might be a foregone conclusion, although a few voices wonder if at least one high-profile figure could face an extended ban. Beyond league discipline, the team dynamics might forever change. Coaches being ejected for practically brawling sets a jarring precedent and could shake players' confidence in their leadership. There's also the potential for lasting grudges to form between some of the ejected players. Rumor mills churn, with talk that trade discussions may intensify, particularly if certain players are viewed as a liability for inciting repeated altercations. Meanwhile, brand and sponsorship optics have become a bigger factor than ever. If the media coverage intensifies, corporate partners might start questioning whether they want to align with individuals embroiled in controversies. Could these tensions push star players towards seeking new teams or bigger markets? That's the kind of question fueling massive speculation. The internet wasted no time voicing opinions. Clips of the brawl went viral, replayed again and again on sports news programs, fan-led podcasts, and highlight reels. Online, heated arguments sprang up among the team's fan bases. Some pinned the blame squarely on Stewart, painting him as the main instigator with a history of overreacting to perceived slights. Others insisted that D. Chinzo's alleged trash talk was calculated to provoke him. A contingent of viewers expressed outrage that two professional coaches should never stoop to physical confrontation, no matter how intense the game gets. High-profile sports analysts chimed in, pointing fingers at the league's officiating standards and questioning if earlier intervention might have prevented the blow-up. A few rumored insiders teased that more behind-the-scenes tension could surface soon, implying that what we witnessed was only the tip of an iceberg. With stories of feuds, possible trades, and the looming threat of disciplinary action, fans braced for a flood of sensational headlines. Interestingly, some fans have ironically praised the meltdown for injecting energy into a season that was, by many accounts, lacking in drama. social media threads buzzed with commentary like, or at least they showed they care, and we've got ourselves a real rivalry again. Still, the lasting question remains. How will this reflect on everyone involved once the dust settles and the league issues official statements? When something so explosive erupts in the middle of a game, it's rarely just about a single foul or a single exchange of words. The meltdown involving Isaiah Stewart, D. Chinzo, the coaches, and the rest of the cast had roots stretching back to festering tensions, whispers of conflict, and resentments that needed only a tiny spark. In that sense, what viewers witnessed was a perfect storm, one that exposed vulnerabilities and forced everyone to confront how personal these battles can become. From a handful of quick shoves to a mass ejection that stunned an entire arena, this was more than a basketball brawl. It may very well shape the narrative for these teams for years to come, with reputations on the line and the possibility of major roster shakeups looming. Could the league impose harsher penalties than usual? Will certain players or coaches choose to walk away rather than endure the fallout? Fans are left to wonder whether this was just a random outburst of frustration or a harbinger of bigger storms on the horizon. In the end, the real question is, will the individuals embroiled in this spectacle learn from it and come back stronger? Or will it deepen the cracks in relationships already strained behind closed doors? The cameras may have stopped rolling and the final buzzer may have sounded, but the echoes of this showdown will continue to resonate well after this season is in the books. If this meltdown taught us anything, it's that the lines between rivalry, passion, and outright chaos can be razor thin, and nobody is safe when tempers finally erupt. That concludes our deep dive into one of the most striking moments of the basketball season, revealing just how easily a high-stakes contest can spiral into pandemonium. The next chapters in this drama remain unwritten, but one thing's for certain: every fan, player, and coach involved will be watching closely, waiting for the next shockwave to hit. And from the way tensions linger, it might not be long before we see another showdown that could redefine these teams. There's rivalries, and perhaps even the sport itself.